The number one biggest mistake is thinking that it's all about you. Oh, I have this many views on my YouTube videos or this many, listens on my podcast. I just need to go out there and find a sponsor. And that's the thrust of my pitch is, I'll look at all my giant vanity metrics, right? And the brand says, who the heck are you? And then they delete your email. They don't care because lots and lots of views, lots and lots of followers, that's a dime a dozen. There's lots of creators on the internet who have lots of views and metrics and all that stuff too. The way that you need to turn this on its head is it has nothing to do with you. It's all about what the brand is trying to accomplish. So if you can come inbound to the brand and say, and do a little bit of sleuthing, do a little bit of research and say, hey, I saw that you were running this campaign last January. Let's say we're sitting in September or something, right? Hey, I saw that you were running this campaign last January. Are you going to be running that campaign again this year? I would love to help you support that in the following ways. I can do 2 YouTube integrations. I can give you paid media rights. I can do XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about that? And the surprising thing about this is that brands do not have giant piles of money to pay random creators that reach out. But you know what they do have money for? They do have budgets for is their own initiatives. So your job is to go out there and surmise, make an inference of what is that it actually seem like is important to them and what are they allocating budgets for? And then let me go out and show how I can support them. And so this is a huge mistake is it's not about you. It's not about you at all. It's about how you can support them to accomplish their problems.
Media kits. Do you have to have one?
We didn't even mention this, or maybe we did a bit at the top, but my wife and I have done over 500 sponsorships personally over the years. We've done this a ton. And of the last 100 deals that we've done, I think probably 3 or 4 asked to see a media kit. So very, very small percentage. However, I believe that the exercise of putting together a media kit is actually very helpful. So it forces you to think who am I? What is my value proposition? What is the composition of my audience? How am I serving them? Because those are the questions that the brand, they want to know. They want to know, if you can tell the story, if you can have a narrative behind why working with you versus another creator is so powerful. You want to be able to tell that story on a phone call with the brand, right? And if you don't know, you better figure it out. And so the act of putting together a media kit helps with that a lot. However, what I will caution everyone listening is if any of you have done this exercise and has a media kit, but you have a pricing page, like a rate card in that media kit, please delete it immediately. Okay. And one of the reasons, Sean, is that when a brand comes inbound to you and you'd be like, here's my media kit, pick an option, right? That would be as if you went to the doctor and before they asked you anything about the symptoms that you were having, they said, here's your prescription for Prozac. And you said, I didn't tell you what my problems are. This is how brands feel when you give them your media kit with your rate card. How do you know whether they wouldn't have paid you $50K or $100K to be your 12-month long ambassador for their brand because you're the perfect fit? You don't know until you have a conversation.
That's a strong tactic right there. And I kind of want to open up a can of worms. Curious your perspective on this idea of creator, brand, audience, values alignment. So this is a major trend in business. 82% of shoppers now demand that a brand's values align with their own. Gen Z, younger millennials, Gen Z for sure, is much more passionate about this. And I think in general, the way we resonate with brands, I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest recording this, and I think about, you're probably going to see somebody driving a Subaru Outback out here, North Face jacket on, Patagonia jacket, trying to reduce their carbon imprint. The whole region leans more liberal, and so there's certain mindset there, and there's certain brands that would really resonate if you align with that. And conversely, if you were outspoken about, say, conservative values, or there might be some serious rub and they wouldn't necessarily want to work with you. Again, flipping it, we're in an election year. I think generally the negative of all this is that unfortunately things are getting more polarizing. My question to you is kind of unpack this. I guess there's a couple angles. Let's hit this first one. This is a self-awareness piece for a creator. A creator has a couple options. Do they not sanitize your content? I'm not there's this idea of we don't talk about politics or religion at the dinner table. That might not be relevant for your content. But what are your thoughts on pros and cons of, is it good to have values in the creator career woven into your content? how would you coach somebody who like doesn't want to force it, but wonders if their content would be more powerful? And if you're optimizing for being brand friendly, is it better to be more quiet? There's a lot of different angles. So, about what you believe and what doors it might close, but also what doors it might open. So what are your thoughts on this idea of just kind of values and how a brand maybe aligns with your overall creator brand that you're building and what you talk about, what you're outspoken about?
Getting spicy here on the pod. Love it. All right. So let me answer this with a story. When I ran an agency, one of the kind of checklist items that we had to do when we were recruiting or looking for creators to partner with on particular campaigns was we had to do an audit of their social presence for certain brands to make sure that they were not saying crazy stuff on the internet, because every brand has this, need to mitigate risk, right? Because they know that if they were to partner with a creator and that creator, during the course of the partnership, or even in the past, if they said something crazy in 8th grade or something and it gets, pulled up again, and we're in the active, flight for a campaign, that brand is going to hear it. Their social channels are going to get blown up. Their customer service lines, how dare you partner with this creator who said this crazy, hyperbolic thing. And the brand gets dragged through the mud, guilt by association, right? And so whether it's right or wrong that brands are doing this type of evaluation on you got to know it's happening. Okay. So whether or not you need to self-sanitize, I'll let everyone else be the kind of make that judgment for themselves, but you should know that it absolutely is happening for a lot of the larger incumbent conglomerate type brands. They're very safe. They're very traditional. Whether it's right or wrong, left or right, they're going to be doing this analysis. And I want to be careful here there is a difference between talking about what you believe. Maybe it's a social issue or something. There's a difference between that and showing yourself in a YouTube thumbnail of your bender in Vegas with your buddies. There's a difference there, right? And I think that, or constantly swearing, like sometimes, like I'm not going to lie to you, sometimes we would go to a creator's YouTube channel and their thumbnails scared the brand off. It wasn't even the content of the video. It was like, they look, they were dressed kind of risque, or they were drinking, or they were like, crazy hyper, our agency was in the family space. And so there are some creators who their kids would be front and center crying, or they're injured, or they're bleeding in the hospital. And I'm not pointing any judgment here, but there are some toy brands, large, family focused brands that didn't want to work with creators like that because they felt they just didn't want to touch that. And so again, every brand kind of has their different criteria or scale of what they won't touch, but this is happening. It's absolutely happening. And so on the other side of it, I'm a creator myself. And so I also think about this of okay, I want to be myself. I want to be authentic. I want to, I don't want to purposely not talk about stuff because I'm concerned that I'm not going to get deals or whatever. So it's a balance. It's a line that you need to strike, especially if partnerships is a non-trivial part of your revenue as a creator. It's absolutely something you have to make that determination for yourself.
If you had to pick one between small and large brands, preferring to lean more neutral or actually preferring to align with a creator that has a stance, most of the time, do brands prefer just neutral?
95% of the time neutral. I think.
So 95%. So while of course we might see examples, and sometimes these places they can have huge influence. I think about Daily Wire, and I think about all the Daily Wire brand deals are almost like extreme conservative brands that are doubling down on wanting to be on the movement of free speech, Constitution, America First. You get the whole thing. And that's obviously a kind of a very extreme conservative movement. So, but what you're saying is if you were optimizing, and the way I would coach people too, is it would be foolish to ignore this, but it'd also be potentially, quenching of your actual self to not have other frames of measurement. So it's it could be a couple 100%. Things. What am I willing to do? And so a lot of things are not black and white when making a decision. There's maybe 10 questions you ask and you kind of score them. So I guess I'm just curious is like, is there some cases though where, and maybe I'm not trying to talk about partying nor being like full tilt conspiracy theorist or socially radical in your ideology, but is there ever a case though where brands would say, I would lean towards, you call it family friendly. If you're like nuclear family, you're probably called somewhat conservative these days because it's an extreme, like even just to have, so like, geez, I can't believe you're married and like building a family. Like, it's just crazy. No matter what your beliefs or religion, but saying that, is there ever power in it? Like, do you ever some like brands?
I mean,
like
100%. I mean, they're the brands that are like comfortable treading that line and saying like, no, we are going to go and partner with this creator who is being very loud about these social issues or these things or whatever. There's a lot of tremendous positive affinity that can come from that. But they also know that they're probably burning bridges with maybe the other side. I don't know what the other side is in this instance, but like, that like if it is a kind of a two sidesism type conversation here, then they've made that determination. They've planted their flag in the sand as a brand and say, this is, the values that we have, and we're going to go and work with those types of people. And so I think that you're absolutely right, but most brands don't have the bravery to do that is my experience. They just don't, they want to play it safe, especially the larger public traded companies. Like they don't, they don't have the ability to just kind of be, reckless with their marketing strategy and just like erase, value of the brand overnight.
If you enjoyed this podcast and are ready for some deep dive YouTube strategy, just go to thinkmasterclass.com to get access to my 1 hour on demand YouTube strategy class. You'll be looking over my shoulder as I share my best tips, and you can watch it on demand right now at thinkmasterclass.com.